second, or not a second lap, but a second attempt at qualifying. So you have throughout these 28 sleds to buy a second attempt in qualifying, which he'll have to do because he's still on the clock as we speak.
Yeah, that's actually pretty genius from a promotion point of view from the facility to let you go ahead and take a peek behind the curtain and decide if you want to go ahead and swing again. Especially, and not even in this case, Chet, let's say you felt you left something on the ice. You know that, hey, I got another 10th in me. I know what to do. Make this adjustment. Let's go. That's a dream scenario. I'm going to do that this season. I'm going to let them qualify again and take their money.
You can use this mic for you. Well, Vermeer's is going to take a look at the sled out here to see what takes place. If it is safety, put his second lap in. And again, this is kind of more of a safety check for him, if nothing else.
Which I was just going to bring up. We'll come back and let it turn that thing, come around, see if anything feels like it needs to be worked on, then head over by your next session.
Hey, he paid for the laps my wells utilized him. He's going to be a little more timid getting down into the corner this time on the 44 sled.
He'll make his way off of turn 2 into the back chute on the machine yet, which is a victory in itself. Going to dive her down into 3, back off of 4, back to the stripe. We'll see what that second lap comes out at.
Checkered flag. Unfortunately, his combined time is going to be stout. It's going to be 2 minutes, 49 seconds, and then some. So obviously not a good time there for Kevin. But better than Colt was able to turn in. The Colt DeLandry never went on the clock, so he'll get his 2 laps here later on in this game. So we'll just have to bring out our next qualifier. Ski boots come off. We'll fire off. It should be Tyler Town, the Traverse City, Michigan racer, on the number 2 sled. Green flag coming out for Tyler Town. The deuce down into turn number 1 and 2. Watch him. He'll chatter into that end of the racetrack. Crank it onto the back chute and punch the throttle. As the old, I think it's 600 cc's on the F3 sleds. Come to life on that little bad boy. So quite a few more cc's underneath the hood or underneath the bonnet. The way you see is that's a 19.015 opening lap. And hang on to it, Tyler Hennister shove up across the racetrack.
A lot of fight that last lap through 3 and 4. Watch that hand. You're going to see that go up and down and constantly look up, down, and then we're staying down now. But he also stayed on the machine.
Which is a win in and of itself. A 37.969, 37.969 for Tyler Town. Should slot him into the number 2 spot. Gady still up top, 36.052.
So now you just got to wonder what's going through these competitors' minds at this point, too. Half of the field has come off of their sleds through this first 4 sled qualifying effort. You know, what do you tell your driver? What do you change going in? Because they know what to do. They know how to do it. Now, I guess the question would be, have they had practice time with these F3s on this ice?
No, they have not. They have not touched the ice. This is the first time they've actually been able to get out on the ice. It's been covered with snow for the last couple of days, so... Yeah, first time coming out here. It's a bit of a challenge for him. Plus, it's the F3 sleds, and that move to the WC last year with the F3. It's a higher center of gravity, harder to get around here, so a little harder to drive. And I personally like it because it's a driver's class now. It's not necessarily a sled class. It still is a sled class, but not as much as it was in the past.
No, I agree with that. I enjoy it as a fan watching it. I think that you can watch what wins on Saturday and Sunday and go buy it on Monday at your local dealer and be able to get the same type of sled. Although nothing against the champs. I enjoy watching them too. But you got to admit, it's kind of a dinosaur. Parts are getting hard to come by. no different than any other racing class that evolved through the years, and it just became too much. So a little slideways there for Calvin Cook from Dayton, Minnesota in the 75. He'll light the clock down in 1, Chet.
Take the old Polaris down into the corner. He's going to work at low line. Big power slide down into the corner. Let it scrub the track. Get back to the whip again. Out. Turn it between down the back shooting. That's an aggressive posture to be taking here in qualifying.
Again, fight, wiggle. Almost a dead stop in the middle of the corner. Brings it back to the stripe. Lap number 1 in the books.
18.338, 18.338, lap number 1, so not quite as quick as Gady, and has a big power slide down into turn 1 and 2, and that scrubs a lot of speed.
Just brings to mind, do you start changing your entry higher on that thing? And he shut off. Oh, no.
Slid her into the corner, may have pulled the kill switch on it, as you see him looking down at his lap, and unfortunately, that's a qualifying run. He is on the clock. So his clock is still ticking. This is his second lap, so he had an aggressive posture there and now has to crank that baby off. He'll come back around. Your combined time is not going to be stellar.
Chet, from what I'm seeing here in these first 5 sleds, I really think the mental line that they have in their head, what they need to run, might not be the preferred line with this new configuration. I think you almost need to come in and drive it down the hill as opposed to throwing it in.
Well, they got all that banking and all that width to work with in the corners nobody's utilizing. They're getting down on the chop that was left behind by the vintage sleds, and it's not paying dividends. 1 minute, 2 seconds, .144 for Calvin Cook. That's his qualifying time. Now, the fortunate thing, and we just talked to Bob Richardson, came up here and chatted with us, but 28 sleds attempting to qualify in. The field is 36. So all drivers will make it in. Unfortunately, qualifying time comes into play for choosing your place here during these heat race actions, so got to be careful in that regard.
Now, that doesn't mean we're going to start 28 sleds in the show. That means that 28 sleds advance into the rounds where they start getting wicked off by time and their finishing positions. Right, George?
So here we go. Next qualifier coming down the pipeline. That's the number 22, Andy Shoemaker out of Howell, Michigan. Getting on the throttle down the corner. He's a little wider entrance down that end, but he also gets light on the left-hand ski and fights that sled through the corner down the back chute. And Shoemaker on the clock. Coming around lap number 1 for Andy Blazes across the 19.230, 19.230s. He'll tiptoe into the tulips down turn number 1 and 2 and onto the back chute.
Nice looking turn through 1 and 2. Let's see how he rolls through 3, 4. Not quite as much fight. The sled doesn't look like it stops mid-turn. This should be a good lap.
Nice looking lap indeed. Smooth 37.987. 37.987 slides him into the number 4 spot in qualifying for the 22 sled.
So now let's go back to our qualifier, Matt Gady. And you're looking at that 36.052, and I'm thinking, wow, that's not that stout of a time. But now watching and he looked like he was really fighting the machine. Now looking at these other times coming out with some quality drivers, and they're just not quite there. Not like Gady. So where I was going with that is I didn't think that would be that stout of a time, but it's looking like that might be an okay time at 36.02.
You know, and something may came into play on that as Gady raced with us last weekend. Was out here with the vintage sled. He knows the track. The track really hasn't changed texture-wise since last weekend, so that's something that he's utilizing. There's that knowledge that he gained over the 22nd running of the Vintage World Championship snowmobile races. Something else we haven't mentioned is you want to be inside the top 16. If you want to make the Sweet 16 tonight, you got to be one of the top 16 qualifiers. We'll see how this plays out as Austin Leeck, the Osaniki, Michigan racer on the 67 sled, takes the green flag and goes on the clock.
So not bad into 1, exit 2. We got that left ski up in the air. We'll watch him set up. That was good right till mid-turn. Bring it back to the stripe. Lap number 1 going in the books.
He was out of the throttle there for a while for the 67 sled, a 19.163, 19.163, so needs to pick up the pace here on lap number 2 if he wants the top spot.
A lot of time being left on the table mid-turn, just gobbling up clock as Austin Leeck makes his way across the stripe.
38.101, 38.101 for him. That's enough for 4th quick as he will move into, the number 5 spot rather. So 5th quick on the field for Austin Leeck in the number 67. So 5th quick for the number 67 sled. And that should bring out the number 72 of Jake Gerow out of Dakota, Michigan. Should be our next qualifier coming out onto the racetrack.
Jake Gerow making his way across the stripe. This will be his first attempt. Again, just eating them sleds up mid-turn. And I'm waiting for someone, Chet, to move that line up and figure it out that, hey, it might be better to drive this thing down the hill than to wrestle it through the turn.
Well, and I'm looking down through, and I got a driver in mind that's going to do just that. But we'll talk about him a little bit later on. Yeah, down the inside's got chatter in there. And again, that texture left behind by the vintage sleds. Vintage sleds, not a lot of suspension travel on them, and they have a tendency to create that washboard effect down on the inside of the racetrack. And he's kind of rambling through it there for the number 72 on lap number 1. Cut an 18.952, not too shabby, as he'll finish off with a 37.694, 37.694, and that should be good enough to put him into the number 2 spot. So not too shabby there for the 72 sled.
So, and it's probably a segue to where you're going here in a little bit, but how many of these guys crossed over to vintage? Is it just 2 from what you're looking on the list here?
You know, I didn't really pay attention to that. There's at least 3 that I see down through here.
So, follow-up question then, do those 3 sleds have some slight advantage with some knowledge of how this track reacted, even though the suspension's different, the power's different? You'd think they would.
Oh, no doubt about it. And your number 1 qualifier, Matt Gady, was one of the ones in contention to pick up the win there at the Vintage WC, and unfortunately a mishap with Jay Mittelstaedt. So here goes Zach DeWalt. DeWalt raced with us. Actually 4 now to think about. Zach DeWalt, the number 57, is out here on the Vintage weekend, so the Eau Gray, Michigan racer on the 57. I said that multiple times. Heads down to back chute coming around here for lap number 1. He's going to work the inside line. And he's on that vintage line down low. Lap number 1's not going to be stellar for him as he gets across and goes to 20.385 on lap number 1.
You know, and he took an interesting line, which was much, much lower, and it was slower. He stayed in control of the thing, moves up a little bit through 3 and 4. He'll wrestle it out. On the throttle earlier, but has to back out of it, which we saw every lap for Mr. Is that DeWalt?
Yeah, Zach
right,
DeWalt. Yep.
Where we were.
Went a 40.319, 40.319, 6 quick on the field for the number 57. Was out here with us last weekend on a vintage sled.
Yeah, I'm actually very intrigued to see how this is folding out here in this qualifying. It's actually making it quite interesting to see that it's a lot to hang on to, and it is a driver's qualifying session today.
I like it. See what happens here. Got her all piped up. He'll bring her out here and point her down the back chute. That's a 23B out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Jake Beres getting ready to fire off, take the green flag here on his qualifying attempt.
That's got to be hard to practice sled racing in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
I would think so, unless you got a massive hockey rink. Good line down on the inside. He's going to huck her down around the hub and onto the back straightaway. He's on the clock. We'll see what he has in store here for the 23B.
You know, the shortest way around the track, he's able to get on the throttle well. Good control. What does this clock say?
18.613, 18.613, and that actually was a healthy first lap. So we'll see if he can do it again. If he doubles up on that, he might be able to slide into the number 2 spot and take it away from Jake Gerow. I don't think he's going to get a shot at the top spot, though, on Matt Gady. Find out. He's cranking hard coming out turn number 4, brings it across. And he's going to go with 37.412, 37.412. That is good enough for second quick. Jake Gerow bumped down to third quick now on the 72 sled, but Matt Gady still up top.
So keep in mind, in order to unthrone Matt Gady here, you're going to need 2 laps that are 18.0 something low.
And this was the rider I was thinking about. So keep an eye here for the 297 sled out of Reedsburg, Wisconsin. Jay Mittelstaedt knows the line around here, and he was one of the few racers last week on a vintage weekend that ran the top shelf. And this is your defending WC champ on his 297 sled. So we'll see what happens here. But he knows that top line is smooth, and smooth is fast. So we'll see what Jay Mittelstaedt has in store. Green flag is out. Jay Mittelstaedt goes on the clock down in turn number 1 and 2, and he makes a liar out of me. He's going to wrestle it down on the inside of the racetrack. 297 down the back chute.
All right, Mittelstaedt brings it into 3. He's gonna go mid-track, wiggle, bring it off a 4. Sowing his oats on lap 1. What say ye, Chet?
Well, I say he goes a 19.236, 19.236, and a low entry into turn number 1. I thought for sure he would blaze around the middle of the racetrack on that smooth ice, and that is not the case. Mittelstaedt going to try to hump it around the hub out onto the front chute, and that opening lap, not what he was looking for. Second lap's going to be bad as well. Well, I say bad. He goes a 38.303. That actually puts him down into the number 7 qualified spot. That was not what he was looking for at all.
So as we're watching this unfold, this is very much more of a beast than I think anybody anticipated. And how good does Matt Gady look? I'm not pronouncing him the king of qualifying yet, but how good does those 2 laps look now where everybody else is in the 37s and above?
Absolutely stellar, that's how. So the 28 sled in that number 1 spot at 36.052 was last year's vintage champ. I'm sure he'd like to add a world championship to his credit here in 2023. And right now, based on qualifying alone, he looks like the sled to beat. So we'll see what happens here for Dakota Harris, Morley, Michigan racer on the number 23 sled, tight to the fence, down into turn number 1 and 2.
Now, Chet, I think he might have the FloRacing feed in his helmet. He did move that lineup, but it wasn't terrible. Slight wiggle. Watch him in 3 going low.
Yeah, he kind of found a smooth line. That's a nice line through 3 and 4. He found a little something down on the inside there as he gets across. He's going to go a 19.467. Second lap, might be able to pick up the pace.
Man, it looked faster than that. Getting up on the hill on the exit of 2, down the backstretch. Diving down into 3. Let's see what he does off of 4, Chet.
Oh, that one not quite as good at that end of the racetrack. You saw him pumping the bars on the 23 sled. So he'll bring it across here. Combined time, a 38.775, 38.775. And that's good enough to put him into the number 8 spot. So not quite as quick as I thought that was going to be based on the first lap alone. Anchorage, Alaska is where he calls home. The number 8 sled, new entry for us out here this year, Chet GUECO. Down into turn number 1 and 2, not quite hammering on the throttle down the front chute. I think came into this with a game plan. The game plan was keep the thing upright and get it around the racetrack first, and then we'll worry about times later.
And that is a dang good plan today, where we saw a couple of riders come off early in the qualifying.
A little different sound to the 8 sled there as he gets around here on lap number 1. First lap's a 21 and change. So needs to find a little bit big improvement here for the number 8 sled.
So I'm curious if we're sour or it's just pipe different, or that is a much different sound.
Yeah, it's got deeper tone to it. It goes a 42.529, 42.529. That is 10th quick overall for the number 8 sled. But yeah, a very different sound to that thing.
So let's talk about later on in this series. Do you need to be blazing fast, or do you just need to stay on your sled and put down adequate laps?
Right now, it looks like you just need to stay on the sled and put down adequate laps. But we'll find out how that plays out. And again, we're looking for the Sweet 16 coming out of this. This is the 999, 9, the most powerful number in numerology. So if you got 3 of them, you got to be doing something. This is Mike Van Dolder out of Innsmore, Ontario, Canada, coming out onto the ice in a very shiny sled.
Being told from the technical staff here at Eagle River that we'll be grooming after this participant after Mike Van Dolder gets his 2 laps in here.
That is a beautiful graphic job on that. I like how she shimmers in the sunlight down in the corner. He's going to slam that baby into turn number 1. Didn't look aggressive on the front chute. Looked very aggressive getting into that corner.
You know, and his sled kicked out very early, very, very much like a dirt car. Way earlier, I think, than any of these other sleds did, and that's going to look beautiful under the lights.
It is indeed. Gets across lap number 1 for the 999 is going to be an 18.381. That was a very good first lap and a very good-looking second lap.
That was probably the best entry into one I've seen so far. Hanging on. Not too much fight on the throttle early. What do we got, Chet?
Well, we're going to find out. He gets crossed with a 36.704, 36.704, second quick for the Ennismore, Ontario racer. So Mike Van Dolder goes second quick on the 999, still behind Matt Gady, that 36.052, a stout number by the 28 sled.
That was an outstanding effort to come out second in time and through the first 14 attempts to qualify. And we're going to get some repeats in here as we get down the list. So let me ask you this, and I'm looking through the list to see if he's got a second entry. Yes, he does. So he's going to be coming out 33rd out of 37. So these guys are going to have that sled there. Mike Van Dolder is going to have the chance to go back and say, okay, what'd we miss? And do they run telemetry on these things that they can collect? I think they do. So they'll be able to go back and look at that data, come back out, maybe pick it up a little more.
Yeah, we'll find out. Here comes the Case equipment out for a plow break. We're going to get things dusted off here and get set to go or continue on. 14 sleds have been out onto the ice thus far. Matt Gady, your quick qualifier with the 36.05. Here comes competitor number 15. Well, the 15th sled to touch the ice. We haven't turned in 15 times just yet, but 15 nonetheless is Zach Kerfedal out of Eagle River, Minnesota. Not to be confused with Eagle River, Wisconsin, which is where we are. That threw me off for a second. 312 sled coming out onto the ice. Take a shot at this. Matt Gady, your top qualifier, 36.052. The number to beat.
Wiggle on the way in. Going to fight it mid-turn. Bring it off a 4. Slight ski pick, but into the throttle decent to light the wick here on lap number 1.
Here goes the Arctic Cat down into turn number 1 and 2. Kind of works the middle of the racetrack onto the back chute. Needs a good opening lap on this. And again, there's low 18-second brackets, kind of where you want to be sitting if you want to be in the top half of the field.
1-2 did not look bad. We're giving a little bit of speed back mid, but his exit not bad. This shouldn't be terrible.
And not terrible indeed. 19.599, 19.599 for Zach. He'll try to quicken that up here on lap number 2.
Zach going to bring that machine down in turn number 3. Set, not much of a wiggle, not fighting that, I was going to say steering wheel, but that bar.
We both go through that. 39.057, 39.057, good enough for 10th quick on the field for the 312 sled. So into the number 10 spot goes Zach.
It is a bit of a lingo change coming from the steering wheel world when you go to this because they're not drivers or riders and they don't have steering wheels. They got bars or handlebars. It takes a bit to reset.
We'll get her figured out on the fly, though.
By Sunday.
There you go. Matt Gady up top. Mike Van Dolder in the second spot with a 36.704 combined. Jake Beres, third quick. Jake Gerow, fourth quick. And then Tyler Town, currently your top 5. Here comes Gunnar Sterne, West Chicago, Illinois racer on the 220.
So now Gunnar, again, I like to, as an old driver and done everything in racing, I like to think about how this stuff gets inside their heads. And Gunnar knows what he's doing. He likes a little thrilling action. So you think Gunnar moves his line up a little bit, or does he just slam it in and tally ho?
Oh, we're going to find out. Here he comes, the old Red Bull sponsored ride, the 220 sled, out onto the ice. Heads down into turn number 1 and 2. That first entry, a little wider than what we've seen getting down into the corner. Beautiful line, smooth handling onto the front chute, takes the green flag.
Now, credit was given earlier for the best line through 1 and 2. I would say that was the best setup for your initial lap through 3-4. Sterne brings it off for turn 2, ski in the air, wiggle, reset on that throttle. I think you're going to be throwing this one away, Chet.
Yeah, it almost got away from him coming out of the corner there. That was a beautiful line. And again, another great line down turn number 1 and 2. And unfortunately, the exit coming out of turn number 2, or I'm sorry, 3 and 4 rather, out of 2 is what cost him. A 19.974. Really not that terrible.
So the mentality, and I'm looking here to see if I see Gunnar on the list again, and I don't, as he makes his way through 3, exit turn 4 again. Not biting that sled off of 4. It looks good.
That actually was a solid second lap there for Gunnar Sterne, as that will slide him up into the number 9 spot with a 38.668, 38.668. So 9th quick for Gunnar Sterne. Not shabby. Good recovery there on the second lap.
So now Gunnar only on the list once. So now with this knowledge you pick up, I mean, do you look at this like a hot lap session? Your first qualifying, I think the Sterne crew, I really think you march yourself over to the paddock or wherever the heck you buy your extra laps, take what you learned here, and I think Gunnar could come out with a really solid second set.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. We'll find out if he does that indeed. So here comes the 326 out of Markesan, Wisconsin. This is Dustin Schwandt on the 326 sled, and he's off down at turn number 1 and 2.
And a perfect 3-point landing up against the bales.
Says, I'm all right. Did the superhero stop up there on the high side, gets back to the sled. And I think you'll see him go back around, get a safety check, and take another shot at this. I don't believe any harm befell the 326.
And did not ignite the light, so he's not wasting time here on this thing. Now, use your head, young man.
Yeah, don't come this way. Don't go this way. Don't
Don't
he's
do
coming
it.
around.
Oh.
This is going to be green flag.
I wouldn't have done that.
No. He should have went down the back chute because that actually brought him across to the green flag. Rico held it up high, and no safety check. He's just going to go for it. Well, coming around here, lap number 1 for the 326 sled. We'll see how this all plays out. Goes at 22.503, 22.503, lap number 1.
All right. So we're told he's on the list here to run again. So again, a glorified hot lap, expensive hot lap session.
It is indeed. Comes across here with a 43.577, 43.577 for him. That's all the way down to the number 14 spot for the 326 sled. So Skidoo makes his way back into the Woody's traction control paddock area.
Yeah, that's just kind of 101 in racing. If you don't ignite that light, go as far back as you can and try her again. So next competitor out going to be Tyler Beech from Dakota, Minnesota on the 68. Boots off of that machine, eyeballing this. So what is that? That's 3 riders off now out of 17 attempts.
Yeah, at least 3.
And a couple more almosts. I wonder if the sunshine is doing something to the ice too, to where it might be giving it a bit more bite with that sun hitting it.
Yeah, you never know. There's a lot of things in play out here, no doubt about it. Here comes 68, had her up on the chip down there trying to get some heat into it. He gets a little tight loose on the entrance into turn number 1, but regardless, here comes the green flag. We're underway for Beech.
Overall, I don't think that was terrible. He'll make his way into 1, mid-track, wiggle, ski up. Take back everything I said. He's into the back chute. He'll make his way into 3. Let's watch that 3-4 turn.
Yeah, definitely tight down in turn number 1 and 2. We'll see what he does here in 3 and 4. That's the high line I thought more drivers would be using and try to carry some speed out here onto the front chute. Bring it across. Lap number 1 for Beech. Going to be a 19.565.
See, now, when you use that high line like he's doing, and I'm enthusiastic to see him up there, you got to be on it because you're taking a longer way around the track as he heads into 3.
Yeah, utilize that smooth ice. Bad entrance down into turn number 3 is going to cost him time. That's a little too high. Coming out turn number 4 as he'll bring it across. And he goes to 39.247. 39.247 or 248 rather for Tyler Beech. So 68 sled goes 12th quick overall.
And keep in mind the armchair quarterbacking is very easy in this heated booth to let these folks know exactly what they should be doing at exactly the right time. So just observations up here. But I tell you what, I think this is the most interesting qualifying session I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, we're going to find out if it continues that way, and I have a hunch it will. 19 sled set to roll out of the Woody's traction control paddock area. This is Thomas Olson out of Lodi, Wisconsin on to number 39. Off and running. Thomas Olson down the corner. Boy, that's a beautiful line. Look out, light on the left-hand side. He'll get her back down on the ice and stay with the whip.
That might not be that bad, though, Chet, because he was on it the whole way with that ski up. Nice slide into turn 3. Rolling off a 4. This is going to be good.
That was bold coming out of the outside there. Lap number 1 coming across for Thomas Olson is going to be an 18.894. Promising indeed.
Same thing through 2, that ski up, but he stayed in it, so he didn't scrub off as much speed. Nice slide into 3, going to bring it off a 4, bring it to the wall, back to the stripe for Olson.
There we go, Olson getting across, goes a 37.691, 37.691. That will put him 4th quick overall for Thomas Olson. Good effort here coming out late in this qualifying.
That was a really good effort, really, really good. I think just that ski coming up was probably the difference, but he had the wherewithal to stay in it and to stay on that throttle, and I think that probably saved those laps.
So we'll find out what we have in store here for the Ishpeming, Michigan racer, Luke Olson, rather, on a 0-4. Set to roll outs. Throttles onto the ice. Get set to come around here and take the green flag, your 20th sled.
Olson getting that knee right on the ice before his entry to 3, and that was a good-looking 3-4. We're going to light the wick right now, down 1.
He's out of the throttle about the halfway point of the front straightaway. Wants to shorten it up down on the inside. That is good handling sled. There's no doubt about it. He's able to ride it through the ripples and onto the back chute here on his opening lap.
Olson will make his way in 3 again. Nice low ride. I don't know if he's carrying enough speed, but the sure looked like he was in control all the way through.
We'll find out. He gets across the stripe there for Luke Olson on the opening lap. Goes at 18.805, so actually not too shabby.
Not shabby at all. Needs to duplicate it one more time. Duplicate, replicate, stay on the sled, stay in the throttle. He'll bring it out almost to the wall. Back to the stripe for Olson in the 04.
Coming across goes a 37.476. 37.476. That's good enough for 4th quick overall for the 04 sled. So into the number 4 spot he goes. Matt Gady still up top at 36.052, the number to beat. Mike Van Dolder, Jake Beres, Thomas Olson, and Jake Gerow, your top 5 as it sits.
I'm excited to see the times pick up as we're getting deeper into this, and I'm looking down the list. We got Henke coming up. We got Blaine Stevenson coming up. Actually, John Henke is going to go out twice within 10 sleds there. Going to get a redo from Calvin Cook. Kevin Vermeesh also getting a redo. I'm waiting to hear. I really think that Stern crew we're going to see pop up on the list for one more go-around. You know who's not going to be on that list? Matt Gady.
Oh, he doesn't have to be. Got him covered so far. Fairgrove, Michigan racer Tyler Foster, 33T, coming around here to take the green flag and go on to clock. Down into the corner he goes.
Out of Fairgrove, Michigan, making his way to Eagle River. Going to pick that ski up, stay on the throttle, back off just a bit on the exit of 2. Down the back chute, he'll make his way inside turn 3.
That was good control of that steed down in turn number 1 and 2. Not the quick way around, but definitely a way to keep it from flopping over onto the shiny side. So he'll bring it across and send her off down to the corner for the Polaris. Lap number 1 opening up for him was a 20.454.
Foster off of 2 into the back chute. Looking to gather up some speed, find some speed as he enters turn number 3. Set, wiggle, roll back to the stripe for Tyler Foster.
Coming across here, lap number 2, combined time 40.832, 40.832. And that will put him into the number 18 spot in qualifying. So 18th quick for the 33T.
So, and I got some further explanation on the Sweet 16. It's not that we're taking 16 sleds. They're all going into the race, and they're going to race 16 laps, is what I'm being told. I know, okay. I had the same look. Chet just looked at me.
I'll just listen to you.
That's what this announcer understands that conversation to be, is that everybody who's qualifying here today makes it into a race where we're going to run 16 laps. That's a lot of sleds.
Yeah, we'll see how this plays out. Here comes John Henke, Stevens Point, Wisconsin racer on the 157 sled. Interesting run to the green flag. We'll see what happens.
I'm not sure what flavor. We're questioning if that was a Skidoo. I know he always has. He's been yellow and black in the past. But very interesting on that first lap. It's almost like he's out there on a fact-finding mission, Chet.
He is indeed. The back end very loose on that sled. And I'm not exactly sure what to go on with the tuning there on the Skidoo. But he brings it across, goes at 21.472. Lap number 1, and that is ill handling to say the least. But he's trying something different. That's a different line. Kind of a wide entry, low exit into corners as he's trying to feel out the line that'll work maybe during race conditions.
So Henke will bring it off at turn 4 back to the stripe. This will not be an impressive number, but yet he's on the sled.
Yeah, 41.955, 41.955 for him. That'll put him 17th quick overall for John Henke.
Yeah, that looked like exploratory committee to me. I would expect that. That crew will probably also take a. Actually,
well, they have one.
He does at 32. Yep. Yeah, so he was out here at 22, and he'll be back out at 32. So that's exactly what that was. We're going to scope that out, go make our adjustments, and hang on at 32.
There you go. Put the pressure on the second one. Here comes Christopher Eichenberg out of Copomish, Michigan on the 85 sled. Copomish, is that how you say that? That's how I'm saying it.
I'm going to go with you. Mr. Eichenberg down in turn 1, going to use that middle groove. I like it. Stay on it, son. Off of turn 2 into the back chute. This could be okay. Into 3, Chet.
And we're going to find out. He kind of lets the sled decelerate down into the corner, gets way down on the side of that bad boy, and brings it through turn number 3 and 4 and onto the front chute. Hustled across. He'll growl his way into turn number 1. Eichenberg opening lap is a 19.822, 19.822.
Again, mid-groove, scrubs off some speed up high, squares up that sled down the back chute. He'll roll up in 3. I expect him to take that mid-groove again. He does. Slide, gather, roll off of 4 and back to the stripe for Mr. Eichenberg.
Yeah, just a little bit of a push for the 85 sled. Goes to 39.699, 39.699. And that will put him into the number 15 spot. So 15th quick overall for Christopher Eichenberg. Bump Zach DeWalt down a spot into 16th quick over. All on our World Championship qualifying. So we get set to go with our next racer.
Well, I tell you, a day like today, I think you're able to gather a lot of information if you're a team on the fence on what you're seeing with the different lines and the entries and how hard it is to hang on to these things. I think there's really some advantage to late qualifying in this session, in this announcer's opinion.
You know, and we should also point out the fact that the track is set up to be moved out as the weekend goes on. So they're going to keep pushing them further up the banking. So that's something to keep in mind as well. They may be set up to run good down on the inside, but eventually that inside's got to go away, and we're going to push the racetrack out towards the corners. They're going to be up on the banking whether they want to be there or not. So something that I'm sure the crews are talking about back in the pit areas. Here comes the Arctic Cat, the 231 sled, Benjamin Langus out of Thief River Falls, Minnesota.
Thief River Falls, I believe that was a focus of study last year or the year before. We got the history on that. Kangas will bring that thing into 3. Wiggling on the way in, wiggling all the way through.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a handful there to get that thing around the racetrack. Opening lap of 20.567, 20.567.
You know what I didn't see, though? I didn't see the hands moving. I saw the sled like fighting the power, but not the hands, and that's what I'm going to focus on as he enters into 3.
Yeah, he's doing a little bit of driving there with the throttle, I believe, perhaps on that. There's a little pump of the elbows coming through the corner. Combined time coming out for Benjamin. He'll get across with a 40.696, 40.696, and fall into the number 17 spot. So Tyler Foster bumped down to 18th quick now on the 33T. So we move into our next qualifier.
Jonathan Proctor on the 686 from Trufant, Michigan, getting the safety shoes taken off his machine and looks it over, gives it a kick, climbs on. We have got unofficially 14 more attempts at qualifying, although I do expect that list to grow as the afternoon goes on. So Jonathan Proctor, Trufant, Michigan, making his way across the stripe, Chet.
686 sled down into the corner here, qualifying attempt number 1 for him. Number to beat to be quick qualifier, a very healthy 36.052 by Matt Gady. As Proctor takes her tight to the wall, coming out turn number 2.
He'll make his way in 3. It looked good at first. I probably threw the announcer's jinx on him just in my head. Washed up a bit, back to the stripe, lap number 1, Chet.
Now coming across with a 20.820, 20.820, and big braking action down into turn number 1. Boy, he slowed and woed to 686 sled.
Proctor makes his way in 3, a little bit better through, but going to come off high with a push. Going to bring that thing dang near up to the hay bales for his second lap.
Boy, he did shove across there. 41.576, 41.576 his laps, and that will put him down into the number 19 spots, the 19th quick overall, just ahead of John Henke on the 157 sled.
Next competitor from Hutchinson, Minnesota, multi-time world champion on the champ sleds in the 102. That's Blaine Stevenson. So now here's another one that not on the list twice, only on the list once. I'm anxious to see what this guy with all the experience that he has can do on this untamed track here at Eagle River, Wisconsin.
He is a driver, there's no doubt about it. We'll find out as Hutchinson, Minnesota racer puts her up on the chip and gets a little heat in the power plant. Ready to cut it loose. The old liquid-cooled machines. 600 cc's in the F3 category, our world championship class, made the move to that last year. And Jay Mittelstaedt picking up the 2022 world championship here at the Derby. As down into the quarter goes Stevenson. A lot of snap coming out of the corner for the 102 sled, no doubt about it.
Now, that was the craziest entry we've seen all day, and that may pay off in spades as Stevenson pitches it sideways on the way in. He'll bring it to 3.
Boy, that is an aggressive move into the corner. He'll do it again. Turn number 3 and 4, trying to get back to the whip, punches the throttle. We might have a shot at our top spot. Get across lap number 1 in 18.037, 18.037. Stevenson running and gunning.
Running that thing like a modified Chet down the backstretch. Early pitch, slide through, does the same thing. Not quite as aggressive through 3-4. Ski comes up. He'll wiggle off back to the stripe.
Bring it across. Combined time 36.131. 36.131. He is second quick. That 36.052, your top spot. Missed the P1 position by 79 thousandths of a second.
What do you do, Stevenson crew? Are you happy with that? Or do you take what you learn and go get the second set of laps? I believe, my bet, I'll bet you $1 crisp dollar bill. Mr. Stevenson will be seeing us again here at the end of this run.
I don't think so, because he only has 2 sleds to buy back in here for a second round. So far, only 1 rider has done so. That's Kevin Vermeersch. I'm sorry, 2. And Calvin Cook. So 2 riders. Calvin Cook, the 75 sled, also buying in as well. So only 2 riders so far looking for a second run, other than ones that were there to begin with. As we go into sled number 27, Ross Erdman out of Moorhead, Minnesota.
So now again for the crews in line, you saw something completely different. Are you over to your rider, saying, Stevenson just pitched it in like a dirt car super low. We got to change what we're doing.
Unfortunately, a lot of that with the setup of the sled on how quickly or how good you can skim across the ice. And if you're locked in, a lot of studs back here on that track, big carbides on the front, I think you got to go with what you got. So Ross Erdman comes across 20.326, 20.326, lower entry this time on lap number 2.
Yeah, kind of driving it up the hill and scoring it off on the way out. He'll run down the back chute inside turn number 3. Kind of the same plan here. Drives it in, squares it off. He'll make his way off of turn number 4, back to the stripe, completing lap number 2.
Cross he goes, a 20 point, lost him there. Settles into the number 17 spot, a 40.155, 40.155, so 17th quick for Ross Erdman on the 29 sled. So this will be your last qualifier coming out on their first round. So other than this, or after this, I should say, buybacks for the next few sleds. Morley, Michigan racer Scott Harris on the number 43 sled. Coming around here to take the green flag, and he is off and running on the Polaris.
Wrestling that thing like a cow that don't want to get in the trailer off of turn 4. It was up, down, sideways, and he is off of turn 2 down the back chute. Good looking run inside turn number 3. Hang on, son.
Not a bad entry down there as he'll roll easily back into the throttle on the number 63 sled. Bring it across here, 43 rather. Goes at 19.741, 19.741, lap number 1.
And his 1-2 was definitely better than the first go. If he can hit 3-4 at the same pace, I think he'll pick up a little time from that 19.7.
Now we're going to find out. Here he comes. Boy, that's a good-looking line coming out turn number 4, no doubt about it. Pedaling for all he's worth as he comes across for the number 43 sled. Goes a 38.788, 38.788. And that is good enough to get him into the number 14 spot. So 14th quick on the field for the number 43. And now we'll do it for our first round qualifying. Now a couple of these riders have bought their way back in. So we get set to go into the buybacks. So with that, Plow break moving out onto the racetrack. So a great opportunity for you to slide down to the Derby Hall and check out all the fine vendors down there. Grab yourself something to eat, something to drink, a chance perhaps to win a sled of your own. So we'll take care of the grooming, get back to more qualifying action coming right up.
Legend has it, the Eskimos have more than 50 words for snow. At Case, we have a few words of our own we like to add to the list, like Benjamins, beans, big ones, bills, biscuits, bucks, buckaroos, bones, bankroll. And that's just the ones that start with B. Because we're all about helping you make more money moving snow. Check out what's next at ConExpo or visit kce.com. You'll see the difference. the new Case.
When plowing is your business, adaptation isn't a choice, it's your job description. At Western, they know that minutes wasted is money lost. That's why Western's Wideout and Wideout XL plows are designed to move snow 30% faster, providing the flexibility to extend, retract, windrow, or scoop snow at a touch of a button. Because at Western, building superior equipment is the only way to keep their promise. More jobs, done faster. A name synonymous with quality in snowmobile accessories and as recognizable as the snowmobile original equipment manufacturers where people ride snowmobiles. Woody's is a choice worldwide. A motorsports accessory distributor, snowmobile and track manufacturers, off-road vehicles, racing champions, sportsmen,